King and myself and everybody else who is joining us now update. We'd appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Councilman Green,
Mr.
Councilman King.
Simmons, excuse me, I'm sorry to interrupt. Let's do roll call real quick, just for the record.
Okay, just for the record.
Thank you. Councilmember Green is here. Councilmember Moreno absent. Councilmember Drusa absent. Councilmember Harris absent. Councilmember King is present. We have 2 members. We do not have a quorum. Go ahead.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's official.
Thank you. Councilmember Green and Councilmember King, it's a pleasure to be back with you again. I had a pleasure of briefing you all back in September of 2024 on where things stood with Amtrak as it relates to the city of New Orleans. I've got another update for you here today. We'll just run through a couple of, if I may, 101 points on Amtrak. Just a quick brief history. Amtrak is a 54-year-old company that has 500-plus stations around the country. We serve 32 million riders a year. We have 22,000 employees operating over 280 trains per day throughout the country. Our network is comprised of 3 major components. This is what our network looks like across the country. In the Deep South, it's primarily long-distance service that's outlined in the goal. We also have state-supported services outlined in blue, and we have our own Northeast Corridor that is in the red, and I'm going to give a little bit more in detail here on the next slide. So just getting into the specifics of each of those business lines, the Northeast Corridor is primarily owned by Amtrak. That's where our high-speed network is, where we operate trains upwards of 160 miles per hour. The state-supported network is a genesis of states that are comprised of almost half of our network, and it will be half of our network throughout the country statewide because Amtrak serves 46 states in the Union. By this summer, we'll have 23 state partners, which we expect Louisiana to be the next state partner. But with that being said, that makes up the train services that operate less than 750 miles. And the reason why it's structured that way is the PREA legislation of 2008 restructured Amtrak's network. For anything that is less than 750 miles, the cost of those services are primarily borne by the states. Then we also have our foundational long-distance service that you're probably most familiar with the 3 services that we have coming in and out of New Orleans, one going west to California, the Sunset Limited, the City of New Orleans that operates daily to Chicago, and the Crescent that operates daily to Washington and New York. So getting into the specifics of where we were in Louisiana in FY24, we served nearly 200,000 passengers in the state of Louisiana with the 3 services I just mentioned. The City of New Orleans carried 242,000 riders, the Crescent 300,000 plus, and the Sunset Limited 77,000. Those operate over host railroads that are the Norfolk Southern, the Canadian National, and the BN Santa Fe and the Union Pacific, because Amtrak does not own any trackage in the state of Louisiana. Amtrak is also making sizable investments in stations throughout the state of Louisiana. We are working on 88 projects that will carry us through FY29, but the good news is that we have several planned in Louisiana for FY26 that are either under construction or planned. So when we look at stations around the country, our objective is to make sure that they are ADA compliant if Amtrak carries that responsibility. To date, Amtrak has invested over $900 million in station improvements since 2011 on ADA projects, and we expect to continue that for the next several years. So when we look at route expansion across the country, the Federal Railroad Administration put together a program called the Corridor ID Program. In 2023, December of 2023, to be more specific, the FRA awarded 69 applications to different parties around the country, different states and entities that applied for them that were eligible. The initial Step 1 process put forth $500,000 for each successful grant applicant to begin the Step 1 process of a corridor development. 2 of those corridors that were ID'd, or 2 of the corridor ID awards that were given was the I-20 route across North Louisiana between Meridian, Mississippi and Fort Worth, Texas, and of course the service between New Orleans and Baton Rouge that was applied for by LADOTD. So getting into the more specifics there, we've got 3 projects that are on the horizon. Councilmember Green, as you mentioned, New Orleans Baton Rouge is now in Step 1 of that process. LADOTD was the successful applicant, and they are working through that as we speak. The North Louisiana project was a successful application by the Southern Rail Commission. They are in that Step 1 process. But the project that is about to round the corner, if I may, is the new service that will come online later this summer from New Orleans to Mobile, Alabama. When we talk about the New Orleans Baton Rouge service, we did operate an inspection train in the fall of 2023 with the governor, the DOT at the time, and since that time, the state of Louisiana has put up $32 million in pre-service funding for that route. So LADOTD is in a good position, as we mentioned earlier, to get started on that phase one element of the Carter ID process, and they've already kicked off that process, and we expect it to continue on into this year. So when we talk about state-supported service in Louisiana, it's not new to Louisiana. It's been done before. As you well remember, Amtrak operated a service in 1984 for the Louisiana World's Fair. That was funded in part by the state of Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama. And that was also the origins of the Southern Rail Commission to help put that process together. That was a successful venture. Unfortunately, the funding for it was not continued after the World's Fair. And again, another experimental service was put on in 1996 and 97, funded through the SRC by the same three state partners. When you look at the ridership numbers, these are the ridership numbers that were experienced in those two iterations, as well as what's projected for circa 2025, which we expect to see a significant ridership growth. And the difference this go around is the fact that instead of one round trip, we're looking at 2 daily round trips. So let's talk about that a little bit more. When we talk about the schedule will be comparable to what was done before. However, you're going to have 2 morning trains and 2 evening trains. The 2 morning trains, one will depart Mobile in the morning, one will depart New Orleans in the morning. Same thing in the evening. You'll have a reverse move. One will depart Mobile in the evening, one will depart New Orleans in the evening. It'll also allow for connections with the city of New Orleans every day, both going northbound and southbound, and the service will have coach service and business class opportunities as well. And as I mentioned, we expect a 2025 start date in the summertime. This is where we are on a few things that we've got left to do, because there are a few check marks that we've got to hit along the way to make this happen. All the necessary funding is in place. The contracts have been signed with the Mississippi Department of Transportation and the City of Mobile. Louisiana DOTD is expected very soon. That is underway as we speak, and we hope to have that as soon as possible. There's a few things that we've got left to do. We've got to complete the layover track and the service platform in Mobile. We have got the land agreement secured. All that is underway. And we've got a positive train control element that has to be complete with the New Orleans Public Belt Railroad and CSX over by Gentilla Yard. And then once that final funding agreement is in place with the state of Louisiana DOTD, we should be in a pretty good position to begin looking at specific start dates and rolling some things out to the public.
Could you mention to the public, that was good that you said the public, the stops that the Mobile to New Orleans line will involve?
Absolutely. I appreciate you mentioning that. So the train will stop obviously will originate and terminate in New Orleans. It will make stops in Bay St. Louis, Mississippi, Gulfport, Mississippi, Biloxi, Mississippi, Pascagoula, Mississippi, and will terminate and originate in Mobile, Alabama, downtown.
Could you talk about, in your opinion, what some of the benefits to New Orleans are of having this rail line?
Absolutely. When the studies were done for this, which have been done over the past decade plus, one of the key things that was identified is the fact that there are 700,000 foreign visitors coming to the city of New Orleans every year. And what we have concluded in those analyses is those visitors stay primarily in the city of New Orleans. They don't venture out into the other parts of Louisiana, as well as the Mississippi Gulf Coast or even over into Mobile, because they come primarily from countries where they're accustomed to having train travel. They might, in many cases, are not necessarily renting cars. So this gives them an opportunity to explore beyond the city of New Orleans. But then let's look at the reverse side of that. The reverse side of that is there is no commercial air service or bus service that connects any of these communities with the city of New Orleans. So when we're talking about bringing people over from the Mississippi Gulf Coast or the greater Mobile area, this is a direct service to bring people into downtown New Orleans and go in to all of the businesses, come to sporting events, whether it's a concert. And the great thing with New Orleans Union Passenger Terminal being right next door to the Louisiana Superdome gives everybody the opportunity to walk straight to a sporting event, whether it be a Saints game or a basketball game or a concert, as well as seeing the rest of the city of New Orleans with the connecting service, because the one thing that we challenge, or we have challenges in many places across the country, is that last mile connector. With New Orleans RTA having the streetcar and the buses right at NOUPT, we have filled that gap.
You can imagine some people coming into New Orleans for Saturdays, for shopping, to ride on to connect to the streetcar and things like that too.
Yes,
so
sir.
I think there are a lot of potential benefits that we don't talk about right now, but I know it'll happen when we have the unveiling, or the start of the line,
You're exactly right. In fact, I was just in a restaurant over the Mississippi Gulf Coast last night, and somebody mentioned to me, they said, wait a minute, you mean we can hop on a train, we can go spend the day in the city of New Orleans, we can go have dinner at a restaurant, go shopping, do whatever, and hop back on the train and come back in the evening? I said, yes, you absolutely can.
Right.
You don't have to worry about parking. You don't have to worry about driving. Somebody else is going to do the driving for you, bring you in, and bring you back out.
So you see a summer launch, summer of 2025.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thanks.
So, when we get into the specifics of New Orleans Union Passenger Terminal, we do have a couple of things going on with the New Orleans Building Corporation. NOBC has put in an application for a Fed-State partnership grant to do the design work on the platforms and the canopy restoration. Those are the original platforms and canopies that were built in 1954 with the terminal. The preliminary engineering, the NEPA, and final design would be covered under this grant that they're seeking. Amtrak is also providing a match to that grant, and the award decisions are expected this coming late spring, early summer. A future funding for this project would have to be identified, but I think the key is getting to the initial first steps here. Amtrak also continues to invest in the coach yard that we manage and that we utilize on a daily basis with the services that we have and that we're going to continue to have. We've made investments both in track, signal, and infrastructure throughout the facility. All of the tracks at NOUPT have been rebuilt in the last several years with new rail, new ties, new ballast. Amtrak manages that property all the way out on the eastern and the western connections, going out to East City Junction and going out to a location right on the canal over by Jesuit High School's baseball stadium.
Okay.
And that is all I have this morning. Happy to answer any other questions y'all might have.
I appreciate you taking the time out for the presentations. I think that we're certainly all who are familiar with this project on this Transportation Committee look forward to this start of the New Orleans to Mobile, and the success of that particular venture will certainly help us relative to New Orleans to Baton Rouge and the like. So I appreciate that.
Yes, sir.
Councilman King, do you have any comments or questions?
I think we have some comment cards coming up, but I wanted to know, just curious, how long is the train ride between here in California and here in Chicago?
Okay, here in Chicago, the train leaves every day at 1:45 in the afternoon. It's in Chicago at 9 a.m. the following morning. It's got coach service and sleeper service on it. So if you wanted to have a bedroom or room at overnight, you can certainly do that. The train leaves tri-weekly going to California on Monday, Wednesday, Saturday. That's a 2 overnight trip. You leave in the morning, 9 o'clock in the morning, and you're in California. Let's just say you leave on Monday, you're in California early on the next Wednesday morning. So you're on the train Monday night, Tuesday night. When you get up Wednesday morning, you're in California.
And forgive me for not knowing these questions. I've never taken a train that far.
Councilman, I can help you with that.
Does it make stops? Or is it like
Yes,
a
sir.
cruise and you hour-long stop, maybe an hour stop?
No, the stops are very short. It's long enough for passengers to get on and get off.
Okay.
There are a couple of intermediate stops where fueling takes place, crew changes take place, such as Houston or San Antonio or El Paso, but the smaller stops are in and out.
Okay.
And going to Chicago, same thing. Memphis is a little bit longer than say, Yazoo City, Mississippi.
And what's the cost? I think it's pretty cool. You can take a train to Chicago and relax and chill. What's the cost? I don't think a lot of
Well,
folks
it
understand.
varies, and what I would encourage you to do is check Amtrak.com because it's just like any other travel structure. It varies depending on when you're booking the reservation and what time of year it is. But Amtrak.com is the place to go, and/or you can dial 1-800-USA-RAIL to book your tickets online. Via a reservation agent.
And I would assume a lot cheaper than a plane ticket.
Well, that varies. It depends on what kind of ticket you're buying. It depends on whether you're getting a coach ticket or you're getting a sleeper ticket. So it does vary.
Okay, well, thank you.
Absolutely. And just for the record, with the long-distance trains that we have today, with including of the Gulf Coast trains, that will nearly double the number of passenger trains coming in and out of the city of New Orleans once the Gulf Coast service is online. But to your point earlier, we hope that helps jumpstart the process and speed the process up for the New Orleans Baton Rouge service as well.
Yeah.
And again, we continue to work with LADOTD on that as they are the lead on that project.
Okay, continue to let us know on the city council level what we can do to support, for example, resolutions or, any gatherings, public gatherings that we have to have that support us in this first phase of New Orleans to Baton Rouge and beyond, whatever we can do. I'd like to acknowledge also the presence of Mr. Darrell Saison, who's in the audience right now, and he's been involved with the planning process of, these transportation planning processes for a while, so I just appreciate that you're being here. If there are no comments online, I just want to thank you, Mr. Stennis, for your presentation. Very valuable information that we will share with the public in addition to those who are watching today. Keep us posted as to what happens this summer, and when that award comes through, I feel comfortable or confident in the award through the building, corporation. Certainly, let's celebrate that fact when it does happen, and spread the word that the continuing progress that we're making in the area of transportation.
Yes, sir. Happy to do so, and happy to come back anytime.
And we look forward to riding with you, Councilman King and I, from New Orleans to Mobile on that first leg, okay?
Yes, sir. We look forward to having you.
We'll be there, absolutely. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Really appreciate it.
Have a good day. Yes, sir.
The card that I have for Jelani Fry is basically on all the ordinances. At the end of the day, we don't actually have an ordinance on the book today, but we'll give you the 2 minutes that's allowed by the public to speak. Maybe you want to hear the presentations from the other presenters? All right, so you have 2 minutes. The issue that we just talked on was the passenger rail service, but go ahead.
Got it. Hi, Mr. Green. Hi, all the councilmen. I'm Jelani Fry. I go to the University of New Orleans, and I'm getting my master's in urban and regional planning. I'm representing the Gentilly community right now because I've been to a lot of their local meetings and stuff like that. And so my question to you all is about access to information when it comes to ordinances and zoning. A lot of, I'll say, regular people who do not know political jargon or urban planning jargon typically go and look for these ordinances and they cannot find it, and if they do find it, it's hard for them to understand, or it's all in different websites and it's kind of all broken up into pieces. So is there a way that a database or something that could be created for everyone to just come and find one thing, or?
That's kind of a general question because I'm going to give you an answer and say everything that the city council does has to be public. And so therefore, if you go to the city council's website, you see, for example, this meeting and the agenda, you see the wording of any ordinance. This one doesn't have necessarily that on it. But I encourage you, and maybe I'll ask you to share your email with my Director of Legislative Affairs, if you will, and we'll make sure that you see, for example, information that we're introducing. But it's just important to recognize that the City Council has 10 committees.
Yeah.
They meet at various times, but all the information has to be public unless we suspend the agenda and add something that wasn't public. But for the most part, every committee follows an agenda where the ordinances or anything to be voted on is online. And I will help to direct you to that site through Attorney Monique, who is my legislative director. She'll tell you about that. But I also encourage you, because we'll now get both of your email addresses and we'll share with you some of the information in advance of it happening. I'm pleased that you're here and that you're interested in finding out more. I do want you to, my general answer is that it's not so complex, except that because of legal constraints or legal requirements, some of our ordinances are long.
Yeah.
But it's for the purposes of sharing with the public every bit of information so things won't be a surprise, all right?
Got it.
Okay, so I'll look forward to Attorney Monique will come down and get your contact information and stay through this meeting, and then we'll share with you additional information that'll help you.
Yes,
The most
sir.
important thing is that council website.
Yes, sir. Thank you all so
Thank you
much.
for coming. All righty.
And also thank you for showing up. It's always good to see our young faces, future leaders in the audience.
Yes. Okay, so at this time, we'll have, we're going to move to item number 4, which also involves item number 5. Daniel Jatras, who is from the infrastructure, who's the infrastructure project manager with the Office of Resilience and Sustainability. He'll address the first issue, and then after that, Mr. Matt Rufo, who can come up now, will certainly join him in the presentation on item number 5. I appreciate your both being here today. Valuable information, and those who are watching and those who go online will have an opportunity to see the presentation that you're making to us. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilmember Green. Good morning. Dan Jatras with the Office of Resilience and Sustainability. The first item we wanted to talk about today is a motion regarding an amendment to a contract between the City of New Orleans and the Louisiana Department of Environmental Quality. This is an existing contract of the city receiving funding from Louisiana DEQ from the Volkswagen Trust Fund. This was set up a few years ago when Volkswagen was fined for emissions violations. So the city is receiving money from the state to install an electric vehicle charger, a level 3 fast charger. That is the kind that can charge a vehicle fully in a 20 or 30 minute time frame. So this is an amendment to the existing contract to adjust for some of the terms as well as extend the period of the contract by an additional year. And then the city will be using this funding to issue an RFP to hire a contractor to install the charger and maintain and operate it. Happy to answer any questions about the amendment.
Do me a favor and just give the public a general idea of the amount of funding that we're talking, and also a little bit more about the Volkswagen Trust Fund, what might be available to our city in the future with those funds.
Sure. So this is a contract for $95,000, and I mentioned that will be used to install a DC fast charger, which is the fastest type of electric vehicle charger.
Where will it be, Dan?
The original proposal was to place it at Washington Square Park. The location is not contractually obligated as part of it, so we still want to do some analysis and engagement to determine if that is the best location to benefit residents of the city and really get the most usage out of that charger. More broadly around the Volkswagen Trust Fund, the state received several $1 million through that, as did all the states as part of that settlement with the Federal Environmental Protection Agency. And Louisiana DEQ has administered those funds, and they have distributed it to cities and parishes throughout the state. So at this point, there's not any additional Volkswagen settlement funds that would be coming to the city. It's just this $95,000.
Okay, thank you very much. Always appreciate your
Sure thing.
presentation. Councilman King? All right, thank you. So we don't have a quorum. Still hoping that a third member shows up, but if not, you can be assured that I will request and ask Councilman King to second a suspension of the rules to allow for the vote on Thursday at our council meeting.
Perfect. I appreciate that, Councilmember.
And I guess actually if we had a quorum, it's still not on the agenda, so it hasn't met the deadline. I set this meeting close to the meeting, close to the council meeting, so, but it will be on the agenda for Thursday.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Item number 5.
Right. Good morning, Councilmember Green, Councilmember King. Thank you for this opportunity to provide you an update on electric transportation plans and initiatives. My name is Matt Rufo. I'm the Transportation Policy and Program Manager with the City of New Orleans, and we'll be giving you an overview of the progress we've made and what lies in store for us. So why are we talking about and focused on transportation electrification? Well, transportation accounts for nearly 43% of our city's greenhouse gas emissions. That's right up there with building energy usage as one of our top sources for greenhouse gas emissions. And so our climate action plan, therefore, sets a couple of different goals for reducing our transportation system's impact on our climate. Those two goals include a 40% electric vehicle achievement for passenger and light-duty vehicles citywide by 2035 of all privately owned vehicles, and also achieving a 75% share of city fleet vehicles being electric by 2035 as well. Just want to share some of our city's recent progress and success. In 2023, Entergy finished completing installation of 30 electric vehicle charging stations at 25 different locations citywide across all 5 different council districts. Those stations provide energy free of charge to electric vehicle users, and here's a photograph of our station outside on Perdido Street being used. We can often observe it being well utilized. Our office also in 2023 completed and delivered to council a 10-year transition plan to convert all 2,800 plus city-owned vehicles to electric, and that would be at a cost of $368 million. The city has also set up a right-of-way charging station permitting process for electric vehicle owners who do not have a driveway or garage at their home. The city has a process in which those residents can apply for a permit to be allow the installation of a level 2 charger curbside in front of their home for usage. The City Planning Commission recently adopted an amendment to Article 22 of the Comprehensive Zoning Ordinance. That's the section that governs off-street parking requirements, and those reforms require and incentivize the installation of EV charging stations in off-street parking spaces. And finally, a couple of years ago, the city completed a purchase of 10 Chevy EV Bolts in the city fleet. Entergy provided the information on this slide, which reports the top 10 most heavily used EV charging stations citywide of the 25 locations that they install stations at. And so this just gives you a sense of the level of usage and the geographic dispersion of usage citywide. And so in 2024, 60,000 total sessions were conducted at charging stations. That's an average of about 165 per day. So these stations are being very heavily used.
I just want to add something to your presentation. Again, that's one of those things that's happening, Councilman King, in the city that is not getting a lot of attention. The city has charging stations that people use for free. That's a great service, but it's not front page news. But I want to encourage the public to recognize that with that also comes a responsibility. Sometimes people leave their vehicles and they get in a car with somebody else and go to the grocery and leave it being charged.
Right.
And then it gets in the way of other people who want to have their vehicles charged. So,
Yes.
To that entire community, and 99% of the people probably do it the right way, just stay with your vehicle. Because we've seen that happen where there's been a line because somebody's left their car for a while. That's all. But that's the negative to a great positive. So I'm just pleased that we are kind of in the forefront as a city in terms of making electric vehicle charging stations and their capabilities available to our citizens. So thank you.
I do have a question. I have a question in regards to the EV stations. I think it's a great idea. Definitely, you can see it's being used outside the libraries, outside the parks. Great idea. I have received some calls about they're on the right side of the vehicle, and sometimes it makes the people who it makes the driver have to turn around and on the street and to get to the left side of the vehicle. Is there a way? I know, for instance, on General Maya, the station is on the passenger side, but the electrical charge in the cars on the left side, on the driver's side, so it makes it kind of difficult. Is that just kind of the brakes, or is there a way to maybe put on the other side of the street, or change it some type of way to?
Yeah, and so with the curbside chargers, you're right. If you don't have your outlet on the correct side of the car, you may have to park in the other direction. Or in some cases, the cable on these chargers are long enough to reach to the other side if you do park in the correct direction, even if your outlet is on the other side. We have been exploring other off-street charging opportunities where the vehicle can park more perpendicular to the curb, in an off-street parking lot. And so those are recommended as part of, which I'll mention in a couple minutes actually, is a proposal for installing chargers at 58 more locations. Those include a lot of locations that are off-street parking lots, and so a more traditional parking lot in which the vehicle can back into the space and the cable can reach either side.
Now that I think about it, I think anywhere you park, it's going to be on the passenger side, so it's no way around that. If it's going to be on a sidewalk, it has to be on that passenger side, so I guess just continue doing what you're doing.
Yeah, I think what you're describing is, because there isn't a universal location for these outlets, we just have to provide a diversity of different charging opportunities for folks.
Well, keep up the good work. You can see it's throughout the city, West Bank, East Bank, all over they're really being used, so thank you.
Absolutely.
Jump in.
Yeah, please.
Councilmember Green, back to your question, or the point you were making about vehicles dwelling at charging stations for long periods of time. As this program has ramped up and Entergy was observing some of their usage patterns, they did come back to the council and receive permission to institute a dwell fee, so that once a vehicle's charging is complete, you get a grace period, but if you then don't move your car after that complete charge and grace period, you will start getting charged a fee to incentivize people to not just charge their car and go about and leave it there for hours taking up the space. So that is in place now at these Entergy locations.
Technically, I guess that should be something that I'm very familiar with, but we just do so many things. So
No, of course, yes. You guys address a lot of topics.
right. So I'm just always telling folks when I see them, don't leave your car there. So when they come back and I pass, you can tell if because there are two cars behind them, for example, and they come. But so now I will certainly, because you brought that up, look up the penalties and tell people that there could be a financial penalty for you doing this in addition to that. So, but
and of course, if
that shows the wisdom of the council having done something that is so very important in our city for me to have brought it up. So that's good news.
Yes. And also important to remember, if the parking space that the charger is at is a metered parking space, you do need to pay the parking meter as well.
Right.
So.
Right. Great program all around, and certainly is encouraging the use of electric vehicles. We do see the stations, these are numbers that can't be refuted. They are there, but the sum of the energy use is so very important. So thank you for that.
Of course.
Okay.
Certainly, we're proud of the success we've had so far, but we do have a long way to go. And so to that end, we've contracted with a firm, Jones Lang LaSalle, beginning in last summer in 2024, to help prepare a strategic long-range plan to achieve our electrification goals. And so it's called the Electric Transportation Roadmap, and this roadmap will establish the goals and strategies for not just EV chargers, but for intended rates of vehicle adoption, infrastructure resilience, public education, and also economic and workforce development. There's a lot of money that goes into transitioning a transportation system, and so there will be economic opportunities for small businesses and workers to participate in that transition. And so we want to make sure that all folks have opportunities to participate in that. We've been working with some key stakeholders through the convening of a steering committee. We've gathered representatives from city agencies that have a stake in our transportation system for a number of different periodic meetings to guide the development of the transition plan. We've also assembled a working group comprised of external agencies, various businesses in the electrification space, nonprofits, various institutions, universities, the Port, RTA, and Entergy, among others. And we are working toward a completion date of May of this year for completing this document. Just to give you a sense for the audaciousness of this plan, of this effort, we're aiming for a 2035 goal of achieving 40% of vehicles citywide to be electric. Currently, about 2,000 vehicles in the parish are electric or plug-in hybrid, and our goal, therefore, is to increase that to about 80 to 100,000 by 2035. This graphic was prepared by our consultant team and presents an S-curve, which is typically used to describe a trend for new technology adoption. The orange aggressive curve shows that 40% adoption. The blue conservative curve reflects a projection from the United States Energy Information Administration, which is projecting about a 16% national adoption of electric vehicles by that year. And so you can see that difference between what is projected nationally versus what we're really trying to achieve over the next 10 years. Public involvement has been a very important factor in setting this course for these strategies. We held 3 public meetings in November of 2024 in New Orleans East, in Algiers, and Uptown. Here's just a scene from the Ladder Memorial Library uptown back in November. We also collected responses to over 200 surveys, and just wanted to include an exemplary quote from those surveys, which really captures the kind of overall sentiment of folks who engaged, which is, I would love for my next vehicle to be an EV, but I have no way to charge it at home, no garage, no driveway. I live on the 2nd floor. Having accessible charging stations, ideally in places I already go, is key to whether I choose an EV. And so we received a lot of comments like that, and among our other takeaways, that was really the top one, that public investment is needed for electrification infrastructure. We also learned that cost, awareness, and home charging access are major barriers to adoption. We heard a lot of support for alternative modes of transportation to be electrified, particularly e-bikes. A lot of folks said that they were really interested in utilizing electric bicycles to move around town. However, a major concern around that is safety. So provision of additional infrastructure for bicycling, such as protected bikeways, is a recommendation of the plan. Also very key, we heard a lot of concern about what happens when the power goes out, what happens when there is a major evacuation. Are we going to be able to access chargers? Am I going to be stuck with a dead battery on the side of the road or at home if I can't go and charge our vehicle? And so we're looking at a lot of different auxiliary energy supply systems. We're looking at locating chargers in areas where we already have resilience hubs set up, where there is solar power and backup battery power available to ensure that when power does go out or when there is a surge in demand, that there are alternative opportunities that are reliable during these emergency periods.
Battery backup for EV charging stations.
Yes, precisely.
Okay.
Right, and so just these are preliminary recommendations. We're reviewing a draft of the plan right now and providing more feedback to our consultant to land on a very strategic set of strategies, implementation plan. But among these are executing a public education and awareness program so folks are fully understanding of the various benefits and incentives that are available for not only purchasing EVs but installing EV chargers at home. We're looking to expand the adoption and utilization of e-bikes and permitted neighborhood electric vehicles. These are small electric-powered but street-legal vehicles that come with all the safety equipment of a regular car, but have a much smaller carbon footprint. We're looking at creating additional incentives, not only financial but also non-financial, for the private sector to get in the game and install charging stations. We've heard a lot of interest from private sector developers of charging stations interested in participating in various incentive programs. Looking to increase and create creative ways to supply used EVs, and so that means working with auto dealers in the city and the region to reduce the reluctance to supply EVs, because we know that there is demand out there. And finally, to influence the conversion of non-city fleets to electric vehicles. And so that means working with folks like the Regional Transit Authority, the Port of New Orleans, independent school transportation providers, which operate a lot of service, and so having them be part of the overall effort is really crucial to achieving our goals. I'll finish with just a few next steps, which are to, as I mentioned, just vet the final plan with our steering committee and working group, which we're looking, as I said, to publish in May of this year. The city was recently awarded by Department of Transportation a charging and fueling infrastructure grant. That would provide over $9 million for the installation of 118 charging stations at 58 locations. The city was not able to complete a federal funding agreement with the federal government before January 20th this year, and the new White House administration has targeted this grant, and so it's uncertain whether or not this will end up getting fully funded, but we are currently awaiting communications and next steps from that agency on what becomes of that award. But in the meantime, as Dan already described, we are working to finalize our agreement with the state to access $95,000 to install the city's first publicly accessible level 3 DC fast charging station in the city, and are going to use this plan to guide the location of that station. This graphic on the map on the slide here simply shows the results of a suitability analysis that was conducted by our consultant to determine the most strategic locations to install charging equipment based on where EVs currently travel, where there is access to high voltage electric lines, and where flooding is not as big a concern as in other areas. And so we're going to be using this guide from day one to inform our decision making and policy making.
Well, one thing about this fast charger station is that all of the city vehicles go to certain locations, for example, to get fueled up, such as on Broad Street or others. So it's kind of practical to consider. I know we as district councilmen always wanted in our district because it makes sense and we want to provide services to those. And maybe there'll be other ones in the future. But it's important to recognize, I think that anybody would recognize that where most of the vehicles go, the EMS and also the police vehicles and things like that, if we're going to switch over, that makes sense, you know.
Absolutely.
Just food for thought. Okay, Councilman King, any questions or? All right. Well, I mean, obviously, a lot of low-key good information in this, you know, and it's always going to be low-key. So I appreciate the work of the Office of Resilience and Sustainability in addressing, moving our city forward on very important issues relative to transportation. So thank you very much for your presentation.
Pleasure.
If there are no comments online or anything
Yes,
like
we
that?
have some comments online.
We do, okay.
First comment is from Devin Foyle. I'm writing to express my strong support for the City of New Orleans' transportation and electrification roadmap, the broader efforts to transition the city's transportation systems to electric vehicles, and the continued implementation of the Climate Action for a Resilient New Orleans plan. These initiatives are vital for addressing the pressing climate challenges our city faces and ensuring a more sustainable, livable future for all New Orleanians. Not advancing these efforts would be frankly irresponsible, not only from a global perspective as members of the international community, but also from a distinctly local perspective. Unlike many other U.S. cities, New Orleans is already experiencing and managing the direct consequences of relying heavily on fossil fuels to meet our energy needs. Our residents know firsthand the cost of inaction, even if they don't always connect it directly to our energy choices. The reality is that the continued dependence on fossil fuels has contributed to the very challenges we face today, such as our ongoing adaptation to living with water and protecting our residents from record-breaking heat seasons. The city has an opportunity to reduce emissions by investing in EV infrastructure and transitioning to cleaner transportation solutions that will improve air quality and build resilience, while simultaneously creating economic opportunities through workforce development and innovation in the clean energy sector. I urge the committee to support the Transportation Electrification Roadmap and related initiatives as critical steps toward fulfilling the Climate Action Plan's goals. The costs of delay are simply too high for our environment, our economy, and our community's well-being. The next and last comment is from Galen Rogers. In July of 1969, Americans were sent to the moon in what was essentially a dumpster rigged to a car battery. In 2023, a child made a bot to track Elon Musk's private jet. I don't understand why NORDA can't reliably track their buses. I lost my job over the reliability of the NORDA schedule and La Paz. I know it's possible to do better. That's it for your only comment.
That's the first time that I've heard the mission to the moon described quite that way. So, but all right, thank you very much for those online comments, and I know that the City Council has shown its support for moving us in the direction that our electric transportation roadmap calls for. So we look forward to the results or the product in May if it goes to June or something like that. And we'll have you back here at the next meeting to just alert the public as to what the results were too. So thank you very much for your presentations.
Thank you.
All right. And that concludes this meeting. I'll ask Ms. Jelani to be available to Attorney Monique Green, my legislative director, who will get your contact information. And thank you very much for your interest in the City Council.